guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new, my name is Heather. I am the owner and author behind townsandhouse.com, where I help you implement systems and strategies in order to overcome the chaos and cultivate simplicity in your home and homeschool. If you are not subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you are notified when I post new videos. And I would love it if you would like and share this video. Today we are in part 4 of my 2021 PowerSheets goal setting series. This is the final video, I think. I think it will be the final video. I will leave links to all of my other videos in this series below. If you don't know what the PowerSheets are, I will also leave a link to my walkthrough video. The PowerSheets are a goal setting planner. It is something that I have used. This is my 6th year using it, and I love it. So let's get started. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my goals for 2021 and how I use the action plans that are in the planner. I know that some people do struggle with that, and that was the number one question that I have gotten over the past year about the PowerSheets is how to put together an action plan for your goals. So we're going to talk about that today. These are my tools. I have my PowerSheets and I have a little journal from Cultivate What Matters. If you are watching this when it is live, when it goes live rather, they are having a great sale right now. Everything is 25% off until January 4th. So if you have not gotten PowerSheets and you think it's something you would like to get, I definitely recommend getting them now. They never have a sale like this ever, so 25% off. PowerSheets is a great deal. So I have written out all of my goals here and I am going to share them with you. I do color code. I just choose the colors in the order that I like them. So you don't have to color code. I do. It's just a thing. It's easier for me. Draws my eye easier. So I do not use everything the way that it is laid out in the PowerSheets. So if you're looking for a straight go through of the PowerSheets, mine is a little bit different. If you watch my last video, you know that I choose my word of the year before I write my goals because I filter my goals through that word of the year, and then I choose themes based on that word of the year. So that's how I start my goal setting for the new year. I choose my word and then I use that as a filter to figure out the theme that I most want to work on. So my number one goal, these are not in a specific order, I'm just going to read them in the order that I wrote them. But my first goal is to create a life-giving home. Life-giving is my word of the year. I talked in my last video about how I had reread the Sally Clarkson life-giving series of books that she has written, and a lot of this goal came out of those books, and also the fact that we are in a new home. Yes, we moved at the end of February. Yes, the majority of our stuff is unpacked. However, there are a lot of things that we have not done in the home that I have wanted to do, but I have not felt able to do, whether that was because of everything 2020 related, or I just was overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that we needed to do. So that is my first goal. My next goal is creative hospitality. And the reason that it is creative hospitality is because of everything that's going on. We still don't know what 2021 is going to look like. And so I wanted to think of ways that we could have community without being stressed. I know every family has to make the decisions for themselves, what they feel comfortable with. And so obviously we don't want any of our friends to feel uncomfortable, but we still want to have that community. And so creative hospitality is one of my goals. My third goal is to grow Townsend House. I have been blogging at Townsend House for almost a decade. It will be my 10-year anniversary in February of 2021, which is really exciting. I have talked before that I started my first blog in 2001 when I was in college, and I have regularly shared through an online platform since that time. However, in 2011 is when I started Townsend House, and it became a career choice for me. So I have built a lot of community this year, specifically in the homeschool realm for Townsend House, and I do want to continue doing that in 2021. There's a lot of back end stuff that I have to take care of after a decade of blogging and like 1,500 blog posts and pictures that may not even be on my blog anymore from Google Photos. So lots of craziness that needs to be gone through, but I do want to continue to grow the Townsend House community. It is a passion of mine to share and encourage other homeschool moms, so that is one of my goals. My next goal is something that I am calling awesome adulting. Now, I'm calling it awesome adulting partly because of Julie Bogart from the Brave Writer program. She talks about awesome adulting a lot on her podcast, and that is where you are taking your own passions and living the life that you want to live in front of your kids so that they have a reference point and know that it's okay for them to also live the passions that they feel for themselves. However, adulting also to me is all of those things that I tend to put off, and some of them are more serious and hard for me personally to deal with. Things like writing wills and getting life insurance. I really struggle with that type of stuff due to things that have gone on in my past, and fear of losing family members is a huge issue for me. So when I think about writing a will and what would happen to my kids, where would they go, all of that information. My husband and I have talked about it, but I tend to have to take a lot of breaks, and we have not formalized things as much as I would like them to be. So things like that, things like budgeting and finance. 2020 was crazy. We moved. We had money set aside for specific things for our home. That money was shifted to different issues with new home ownership and some car trouble and just 2020 in general. So I want to get back onto a better financial plane. So awesome adulting is going to be both hobbies and the more serious things that need to be dealt with. My next goal is life-giving homeschool. And the main reason that I want to have a life-giving homeschool is because I don't want homeschool to be monotonous. I want my kids to love learning. That's one of my primary goals in homeschooling. I want them to know how to seek out the information they need to follow their passions and foster their own ideas and growth. And this past year has been a little bit of a struggle with homeschooling. It has not been bad, and we have accomplished everything that we need to do, but it is a little bit stale. And I think part of that was because we have not had as many activities. We haven't had any activities. That's a big part of it. So I had been used to getting out of the house several times a week for Emma for band and for other activities. There was homeschool chorus and tennis and other things that my kids participated in, which obviously they have not done the majority of 2020. So we have had a lot more time at home, which everybody has, which means we are very efficient with our homeschool work. But it hasn't been as fun. And so I want to breathe new life into our homeschool. I do 2 big resets each year usually. We are year-round homeschoolers, so usually May, June, we lighten up dramatically for homeschool. We're usually actually finished with our homeschool curriculum by the beginning of April. And so I tend to do a big reset before we start new resources in July, and then I do a big reset in December before we start the second half of our homeschool year in January. So lots of life-giving stuff for homeschool. And this is also, I take into account a lot of my kids' interests. At the beginning of the year, we spend some time working through vision boards, creating vision boards together, and reflecting on what worked and what didn't for the first half of the new school year. So I'm really looking at July through December. I'm not looking at January through June at this point. So I want to breathe new life into our homeschool, hopefully, and get into a good rhythm. Rhythm and life-giving. Those are the 2 themes that I'm really working with this year. My next goal is lean into adventure. And this is, I think, primarily because we have not really done anything in 2020. We had a lot of time off, and Matt was home working from home for a large chunk of time, and we had, stuff going on, but we weren't really doing anything, and I want to change that. Part of it, in the past, it's been because Lucy has been too little to do a lot of things, but she's not anymore. So I want to hopefully go on a vacation this year. I really want to go on a vacation. We have not gone on a vacation since Jack turned 1. We do staycations most of the time, and part of that is because we spent a lot of time paying down debt over many years, and so we haven't felt like we could spend the money on that type of a thing, but now I think we hopefully can figure out some sort of situation where we can go on vacation. I would like to plan more weekend excursions with my family. It's easy for me during the week. I am all in on homeschool. And so on the weekends, I feel like homeschooling is my full-time job. So on the weekends, I am playing catch up with everything. That's, running errands, doing food prep, getting things ready for the week, and, general home maintenance and cleaning, laundry, all of those things. So I want to be able to lean into adventure, and this actually connects to my creating a life-giving home goal. So if I want to lean into adventure, I need to make sure that my rhythms and routines surrounding the house and homeschool are really solidified, so that I don't feel like if I'm going away for a weekend that I'm going to have to spend Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday playing catch up on all the things that I have not done in the home that I need to, or for the homeschool for the weeks ahead. So that is kind of a roundabout way of saying I need more leisure in my life. I need some times where I'm not working quite so much. We'll see how that works. I don't know how it will work. My next goal is life-giving health and wellness. Now, wellness was my word of the year a couple of years ago, and I concentrated on the 8 dimensions of wellness, and I loved working through my word of the year that way. I spent each month to 6 weeks working on a specific area of wellness. This past year, I have completely fallen off the wagon with everything. I was, walking and exercising pretty regularly, but my food has not been that great. I stopped doing my morning routine probably around the end of September, beginning of October. I started sleeping in. I was not planning out my days as well as I normally do. And I think it was just 2020, honestly, because I have had really good rhythms and routines for wellness for a couple of years now. And I just kind of let a lot of that go. I felt like I needed more rest. I needed to just sit and read and play with my kids and not really think a lot about other things. So I guess the reason that this goal came up is because the past few months have not been as successful for me in the health and wellness. So I want to find rhythms and routines that work for me and my family, and trying to balance it all. Balance is such a hard thing because it's almost like when you are putting time into one area of your life, something else you have to pull back on. That isn't a bad thing, but it is a challenge that you sort of have to work through. My final goal for 2021 is to grow my faith. This is a goal that has been on my goal list for many years. I've said before that, growing your faith is something you never really complete that goal. There's always something else that you can do to grow your faith or grow your relationship with God. And so that is usually one of my priorities for a new year, is to think of new ways to grow my faith as a Christian, grow my relationship with God. So that is my final goal for 2021. Once you have written out your goals, the next page in the PowerSheets is a vision board. I think I may have talked about this before, I'm not sure, but I don't use this page for a vision board. I do vision boards with my kids the first week in January, and we get poster boards, and mine tend to be words and not pictures. Words tend to speak to me more, and I find that when I write things down, just like when I write anything down, it sticks more for me. So there may be some pictures, like family pictures or something like that, but for the most part, I write words and quotes and things that encourage me, but I do that with my kids separately from PowerSheets. And then the next page is the word of the year, where you can choose some different words and look up definitions. Like I said in my previous video, I choose that word before I write out my goals, so that is already completed for me. Life-giving is my theme. That is what we are going with. Then the next step is the action plans. And I think last year was the first year that they had action plans. I feel like there may have been action plans before, but I'm not sure. I would have to look back at my PowerSheets. But this year they did change the action plans, and I think they're a little bit easier to work through this time. I use half of the action plans, and that is why I actually have this notebook, because I will talk about that in a minute. The first page of the action plan is where you write down your yearly goal and why you have that goal. So I want to create a life-giving home. Why? Because I want my kids to feel safe and secure, and I want to feel comfortable in my home, and there's other reasons too. But that's kind of what you do. You go through and you write what your goal is and then the why behind it. If you don't have a why behind your goal, it's going to be harder for you to actually complete that goal, because you're not... Why are you doing the goal? What is the point of it? If you don't have a why, why did you write that goal down? Then the next section is resources needed, and there are 6 spots: time, money, physical space, expertise or advice, emotional capacity, and help from others. And you check off which of those resources you will need to work on this goal. And then you're going to check off where this goal aligns. This goal aligns with my big picture, yes, no list, or word of the year. So there can be, some of my goals have multiple why they fall in this category. All of my goals fall under my word of the year, because as I've said before, I choose that as my theme and then write the goals. I think this is good because it helps you to go and look back at some of the things that you have written to really solidify why you are doing this goal and how you're going to make it happen. Then you're going to write down what success looks like for this goal for 2021. And like I said, with my growing my faith goal, it doesn't have to be it's completed. Some of my goals are much more like a broad idea than a specific thing that needs to be done. Now, there are specific things that I still want to do under my goal, like read through the entire Bible, but that is more of an action step to me than what completion would look like. And if you get to this point at the end of the year, that is where you will feel successful in this goal. It doesn't mean that you have to have completed the goal. If it's not something super specific, but you will feel successful and as though you've made progress if you did this thing. The next box is what might happen if you don't start or make progress on this goal. I look at this as almost like a feeling. How am I going to feel if I don't make progress in this goal? It's not meant to make you feel bad. It's meant to encourage you to start, just to take that first step and start. Because, Laura Casey always says little by little progress. It doesn't mean that you have to finish everything the first week in January. You can still keep working towards your goals all year long. You might finish some of it at the beginning of the year, and some of it you may have to wait until the end of the year, and that is okay. But how would you feel if you don't start, or if you're not making progress? What is that going to look like for you at the end of the year if you don't start? The next box is who will be positively affected by this goal. Most of my goals are centered around me and my family and my relationships. Relationships are my big why. When I look back at my entire life, when I'm old and gray, that's the most important thing to me. My relationships with God, with my family, and with my friends. So most of my goals all center around my family being positively impacted by this goal. And then the last one is how will I have fun with this goal as I'm working through it? And that can be kind of hard to come up with different ideas. For some things like creating a life-giving home, when I come up with a good rhythm and things are just easier to maintain because it's a habit and habit stacking really works for me. The fun part about that is not really the rhythm, but it's the mental space that I gain back because I'm not having to think about those things so much. Decision fatigue is something that we all struggle with. And so, concentrating on my yes and no list, what I'm going to say yes to and what I'm going to say no to, that takes a lot of decision fatigue out of my life. And then rhythms and routines, once they become habits, really help free up my mind for other important things. So that may not sound like fun, but in the grand scheme of things, it is fun. Now, if I think about awesome adulting, I am going to pair the hard tasks, things like writing a will or having a budget meeting with my husband, with something that I enjoy doing, like knitting or reading or some other hobby that I enjoy doing. So it can be a couple of different ways. Or you can say, if I meet this milestone, I will do this. That's another way that you can think about having fun with your goals. The second page of the action plan, I do not use. This is where you write down mini goals that will help you make progress between now and the end of 2021. It says brainstorm ideas and action steps to get you from here to completion. Then choose your mini goal for the first quarter of the year, January through March, and write it down. And then on the bottom it says mini goal, January through March, and the action steps. So I do not use this, and the reason is because I have said it before, I am a list maker. And while this is really a good space to use for even writing a list, I need a little bit more structure, and I need something that I reliably go back to. So what I actually do is I write my themes in a little notebook for the new year, and under each theme, I will just start making a list. So I will make a list of all of the things that I can think of that will go with this specific goal for the new year. Now, that does not mean that I complete everything on this list, but it gives me a space where when I think of things, I grab this notebook and I write it at the bottom. I can cross things off as I complete them. I can add new things. I can remove things from the list if situations change. I don't have enough space in here to do all of those things, and that's okay. This is a perfectly great place to write down your mini goals and to figure out where you want to start in January. But for me personally, I would prefer to have it in a notebook, in a separate notebook that I can keep with me, that if I go places, I will keep it with me. When I exercise, I put it on the treadmill. I get a lot of ideas when I'm walking. So that is just something that I do. So I have a new notebook. This one is from Cultivate What Matters. There's great little journals on Amazon as well, just little line journals. It gives me a place to keep everything straight, and I just list everything that I can think of. So for example, for the Life Giving Home goal, I want to participate in the 2021 Home Organization Challenge with a bowl full of lemons. I follow her on Instagram and I have her books. I used to follow her blog years and years and years ago. She used to have a great link up for home management and fun recipes and stuff like that. Cleaning index cards, which is another thing that a bowl full of lemons I've seen on her Instagram. Creating a weekly rhythm, personal homeschool family, specific days for specific things. Toy organization, that is something we have not done since we've moved into this house. Everything is actually still in big Rubbermaid bins that we threw all the toys in when we packed. All of that stuff needs to be gone through. I want to work on my home management notebook. I got an Erin Condren 8.5 by 11 lined notebook, and so I'm separating that into categories and making a big calendar like for home maintenance tasks that need to be done, specific months, that kind of thing. Seasonal rhythms laid out, dinner rituals. One thing that we really love is during Advent, we light the Advent candle each night. We do a little devotion and sing a song and just sort of have a good time together. And I don't know why that always falls off come January, but it does. Obviously because Advent is over at Christmas. But years ago, I would read to the kids at night, in the evenings, during dinner, and that was how we kind of would wind down our day. And I have not found a good book series for that. I've read all of the Narnia books, all of the Harry Potter books. I've read all of the Little House books. I've read lots of books, lots of books to my kids. Now Lucy is coming up and she wants to listen to some of these books, so I might start rereading some of our favorites, but I want to have a good evening ritual with my kids to help wind them down. We don't necessarily have a specific bedtime for them. I try to have them asleep by 9. My kids are night owls, which is better than when they were waking up at 5 a.m., but it's a struggle for me. I'd like to do the simplified challenge again. Mainly, I want to get rid of anything that we don't need. I felt like I got rid of a ton of stuff when we moved, and I had really weeded out most of the things that I did not want over the past 5 years. We didn't have any closets in our last house, so everything that we had to be out. And because of that, and I just hate surface clutter, I got rid of so much stuff. But now we have closets, and those closets are not organized, and everything is hidden from sight, which is great, but but it's not. I just want things to be neat and tidy. We have to work on that. Cleaning routines, chore charts for the kids. I have not updated their chores since we've moved into the new house. It's just kind of been flying by the seat of our pants, which is fine, but it's that decision fatigue. I don't want everybody to always come to me, what do I do now? What do I do now? So if we have a list, a checklist that we can work through, that is just easier for me. And so all of these things are action items that can be completed. Will they all be completed in January? No, they will not. A good rhythm is going to take more than a month, I feel. I will start small with specific things that need to happen in January, but I think that overall it will take a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, to really get into a good rhythm for everybody to feel comfortable and know what comes next. And so I really do seasonal rhythms, so I refresh my rhythm pretty much every 3 or 4 months, and that works for me. I do like change. I don't like things to get stale, which can make rhythms a little bit more difficult, but there are certain things that happen regularly regardless. But so what I do for this life-giving home, I will probably come up with more tasks before I figure out what my January tending list is going to look like. I have talked before about a slow start, and January really is about me moving into a good rhythm and routine for my life and with my goals, and trying to figure out where I want to be. And that's okay. So I will take the first week and a half to really get things solidified. I do tend to write out my tending list either on New Year's Eve or on New Year's Day. It's on the weekend this year, so that makes it a little bit easier. So I will have a couple of days where I can think through all of the things that I want to work on for January. Another thing is creative hospitality. Some of my ideas are bringing meals to people, sending out snail mail cards to friends, even local friends, because I feel like a card is always welcome in my view. Setting up our home for outside activities. Matt is working on building an ice rink. It's almost done, thankfully. And, we have good sledding at our house, and we would like to get one of those outside heater things so that if we have friends over for sledding or for ice skating, there's some place to get a little bit warm without having to be inside too much. Those are just some ideas. And so for each theme, I write down more ideas. Now, some of the things, like I have Cultivated Calendar on my list, which is not a goal, but it is part of my Create a Life-Giving Home, and it's also part of my awesome adulting, and it's also a part of homeschool. So it's part of a lot of different goals. So I will have some categories in here that are focused on more than just one goal, and that's also okay. And that's part of the reason that I don't use the second part of the action plan, because if I have something like create a cultivated calendar, that is going to fall under so many different areas that I can't really say, okay, well, it's just for this area. If you don't know what a cultivated calendar is, it's something that I heard Laura Casey talk about maybe in 2017, I'm not sure. I can't remember now. But what she did was she went through her entire year and she wrote down birthdays and important events and everything right ahead of time. Now, I am a planner person and I do a lot of that, but like writing down birthdays and things like that. But I also want to take the time to mark down other things. So last year or 2 years ago, I started incorporating a planning day each month. So the last Thursday of the month, around the last Thursday, I put a sticker on my calendar, and that is my planning day. It is a day where I update all of my calendars. I look at what's coming up in the month. I look at my budget. I think about homeschool planning. It's a day that I put a movie on for the kids and I sit down and just work through all of the things. And it correlates for homeschool with the next day I do monthly conferences with my kids where we talk about what's working and what's not, if they feel like there's something that is too difficult or too easy, or they want to make a change in something. I have those meetings after my planning day. It gives me an opportunity to see what's coming up in the month ahead. We have a lot of birthdays in our family, and so there are always birthday presents that need to be purchased and thought about, and I'm really bad at birthdays. So having time to sit down and think about those things ahead of the month is really important. I recommend putting yourself on your calendar. It helps. Another thing that I have done is blocking off a weekend each month that is specifically for my family. And the reason that I do that is because it's very easy to push off when we get an invitation for something else. And my kids really crave that individual attention with just Matt and I, and to do something as a family. And so when I write it on the calendar, it's an appointment, and we don't say yes to other things that are going on. And by writing it on the calendar, it gives me not excuse, but it gives me the reason that we're not going to do something. And it's important to me to put that time on the calendar. Other things that I put on there, vacations, when we're hoping to go on any trips, if we go on any trips, anything important, I want to have it on the calendar ahead of time. That doesn't mean that things don't change. Things can always change. 2020 is definitely proof of that. But if I have it on the calendar, it's easy for me to say, this is the time that we have dedicated for such and such a thing. For awesome adulting, some of the ideas and things that I have are my will, which I talked about already, life insurance, a home inventory, filing cabinet organization. I have a lot of stuff digitally now, but there are some things that just are in filing cabinets, and going through and shredding old files is something that I need to do. You keep your taxes for 7 years. We used to have rental property, and so in my business, there's a lot of just stuff that needs to be refiled and dealt with, and a better organizational model for the stuff that we have to have paper copies of. Financial planning, saving and spending goals and tracking, paying off the rest of our debt, picture organization, that is a big one. Every year I say, I'm going to start organizing my pictures, but I don't. And because everything is digital now, we have so many pictures. I feel like it was easier back in the day when you would drop your film off at Rite Aid or CVS, and they'd mail it out and you'd get it back in a week, and half of the pictures would have your thumb in front of the lens, and so you just throw them away. You'd have 2 pictures out of the entire roll that you're like, these are the good pictures, I'm going to keep these and put these in an album. No, everything is digital now, so there are thousands and thousands of pictures and videos that I need to go through and figure out what I'm going to do with them. Ideally, I think what I want to do is just use a service like Snapfish and just print out 4x6 pictures of what I want and then just delete everything else. And it's really hard for me to say that because, do you really want to delete pictures from when you had your first child or from your wedding or, a vacation that you went on? Probably not, but it's okay to let those things go. And how often do I really go back and look at all of those digital pictures? Never. I never do it. I'm much more inclined to sit down and flip through one of the chapbooks albums that I have printed my Instagram pictures on. So I think getting the rest of my Instagram pictures on chapbooks and then also going through all of my old digital pictures and printing out ones that I want to keep and putting them just in a normal photo album. No scrapbooking, no memory keeping, even though I would love to do those things. I think that's what holds me back from the picture organization because I do love to do those crafty type things and I'm just not doing them. So some of the fun things that are on my awesome adulting list are knitting. I haven't been knitting this year at all. I don't think I have knit at all this year. I might have made, well, that's not true. I did make a bunch of new kitchen washcloths, but those are super easy. And I did do cowls for the kids and a couple of hats. But I want to do more knitting. I used to do knitting and reading posts every week and would share those. That's something that I really enjoy doing, and I have put it off, but I don't want to put it off anymore. I just want to get back to it. Some of the things on my homeschool list are finding a good homeschool rhythm. In the winter, it's really cold in Maine. We have a lot of snow. If it's a nice day, the kids do spend a lot of time outside, but we really hunker down the first few months of the year and do a lot of our book learning then, seat work, lots of reading aloud. I like to call it hygge schooling. It's a lot of cozy, just being together and working on art and handcrafts and watching documentaries and lots of great conversation and baking. Those are all things that I really love to do during the first quarter of the year, but that's not the only rhythm that I want to focus on. This year, instead of changing my rhythm every few months for homeschool, I would like to kind of have some benchmarks for each season of things that I do want to do during that season. And so I need to focus on that at the front end of the year, so I have fewer decisions to make as we go through the entire year. I want to get back to my Sunday planning. I really want to try planning out 4-day weeks and having a Friday fun day. I tried doing that this fall. It did not work. My brain doesn't seem to work with planning school for 4 days and then having like a flex day. So I don't know how I'm going to work on that, but it is something that I have thought about. The kids have talked to me about using a bell schedule for their classes, which is so funny to me. It's like very public school, obviously. But I think that the reasoning is that they like to know when they can change subjects, and if they finish before the next bell, they can take a break. Now, the problem with that is it makes our school day longer. And so I'm not sure how I'm going to work it so that they keep moving, so that I'm not bogged down with homeschool for 7 hours a day, because that is a lot of homeschool. It's a lot of school for one day for 3 kids. So that is something that I'm going to think about. Usually it only takes me about 45 minutes to an hour to do school with Lucy first thing in the morning. And Emma and Jack are pretty independent with their work, which is good. There are some questions sometimes, and we do a lot of together subjects a lot when I'm reading aloud, since we are mainly literature based, but all kinds of ideas. I have focuses for each of my kids, things that I want to work on with them for the last half of the school year, and then work on my block scheduling, which is something that I have done for a few years now, where I have specific blocks where I work on specific things. I have like an early morning block where I do my morning routine and my work stuff and emails, and then I have, breakfast, and then another block, our morning block for homeschool, which is usually from 9 to noon, and it's pretty much all of our homeschool, all the stuff that I need to focus my attention on with the kids. And then in the afternoon, after lunch, there's another block where there's a shorter block where they finish up school, and then a block of quiet time, which even though Emma's going to be 13 this year, we still have a quiet time every day. This introverted, highly sensitive mama needs that quiet time every day. So I continue to go through each of my goal ideas and write down things that I think I want to do within that goal. And those become my action steps. And once I have my list of action steps, I will go through and pick out some things that I want to work on each month. Now, I do not list them in order of how I want to do them. Sometimes I do if I'm really on the ball. But like I said before, I will continue to add and remove things from these lists throughout the year. And that is why I don't use the second page of the action plan, because it's easier for my brain to have this little notebook and write things down. Now, I don't just have those 8 goals in here and lists with those. I also have things like a list of things I want to do. And so when I think of a specific goal, I can think of action items that way, but sometimes I will say, oh, I want to get furniture for my house, or I want to go on vacation, or I want to close my Apple Watch rings for 30 days in a row, or whatever it is. They may fit into specific goals that I have, but when it's more of a brain dump, things that I want to do, things that I need to do. So I have lists for those things, and then I can take things off of that list and either categorize them under a goal, or it may be something where when I do a seasonal refresh, there's something else that I want to work on as well. And so another list that I have in here are habits that I want to work on. I really like the book Atomic Habits. It talks about habit stacking and how you attach a new habit with something that you're already doing, another habit that you regularly attain. And so I have a list of habits. I have like a morning routine and an evening routine, a homeschool routine. I take a lot of time to just write these things down. And I do that to get it out of my brain. And also, once I write it down, it seems like it's easier for me to just see where I need to make the improvements. So it's not always just an action step for me with my goals. It's sometimes just writing it down in the right way for me to see how it will work. I know it sounds so weird, but it is how my brain works. So this notebook will be with me throughout the entire year, and I will add and cross things off as we go. And that's kind of how I work my action plans. The next section in the PowerSheets is the yearly overview. It is broken down by quarter, and I don't use this so much. I do write down birthdays and important events, but I don't look at my goal. I do look at my goals in 90-day segments. So I don't write out everything. Like, it's hard for me to say, I'm going to do X during October, November, and December of 2021. That's really hard for me to visualize. So instead, what I do is I write down the important things and I work on it quarterly. So I don't have as much of a yearly overview. I do it quarterly. And the reason is because several years ago I read The 12-Week Year, and that book really helped me figure out how to think about 90-day goals. And so all of the goals that I have are my yearly goals, but there are specific things within those goals, mainly a lot of what's on these lists in my little notebook, that I'm going to work on during the first quarter. And until I finish most of those tasks and action steps, I am not able to think about what quarter 2 is going to look like. And that's why I really like the PowerSheets, because they have the seasonal refresh and I can look at my goals with a fresh set of eyes and see where I am. And does that mean that I will accomplish all of the stuff on these lists in my notebook? Probably not. I mean, my lists are kind of long and I write long lists. But I will make progress, and then I will be able to say at the end of the quarter, and at the end of the first quarter, okay, where do I want to go now? It's possible a lot of those things on my list will change. It's possible that I will remove things and add different things. So I don't use this yearly overview as much for goals as I do birthdays and other important events. And then we move into the January prep work for your tending list and what's going on for the month of January, which I'm not going to talk about today. I will hopefully do another video with that information. It probably will not happen before January 1st because we are almost at January 1st right now. But I want to thank you so much for joining me on all of these videos. It has been a lot of fun for me to go through the prep work and talk through my goals. At the beginning, I was really worried because a lot of it is very personal. And even though I share a lot of my life with my blog readers and on YouTube, sometimes I feel a little self-conscious about sharing really specific, important things in my life. And goals are one of those things because you want to improve, but you don't want to share all of the bad stuff either. But you kind of have to share some of it so that you can show that you are improving. But I have enjoyed this series. I hope that you have. I hope it's been helpful. If you have questions about the PowerSheets, about setting up your action plans, please leave me a comment or email me. I'll leave a link for my email in the description box. And I want to help you achieve your goals this year. I want to walk alongside you and cheer you and encourage you. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.